Hello everyone, welcome to the Elephant Room. It's me, Marilyn, aka the Dharma Coach. Thank you so much for joining us today, joining me along with my special guest, who is just a force and a figure in the yoga community and has truly taken up the mantle of bringing yoga to the south side of Atlanta and bringing it into particularly the Black community. And I've known him for about 2 years now. It really has been 2 years. I met him at a coffee shop. I think it was like a Starbucks a couple of years ago. And he was wearing a great shirt that said yoga's for everybody. And I said, that's my kind of dude right there. And he really has embodied that yoga is for everybody. And has made sure that his studio, which we'll go into a little bit, is a space that welcomes and allows space for growth for anyone through yoga and so many other things that he provides in the community. And I'm just so grateful to have him here today. And without further ado, welcome Mr. Anthony Malone.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. I'm honored, humbled, and so thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just want to get into talking just about what you're doing. You know, there's so much. I know that he's definitely got the studio. Atlanta Multi-Sports Magazine is another arm of what he does. He totally is a yogi. And the other arm is Yoga Bites, a great vegan dessert company that I'm totally excited about. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So we have Yoga Bites that started before the studio, and it was a effort to, really was a selfish effort because I love desserts. But as a vegan, I wanted a healthier choice, a dessert that did not have any meat or meat products. So very fortunate to launch a variety of different vegan treats and desserts. And so yeah, that was a big part of what we did. Collectively, my wife and I would go out to different yoga studios and actually have samples of these desserts. So after the students would finish yoga, they could have a dessert. And the way that we did the packaging, without going into too much detail a lot, but the packaging was boxes that were painted by children or painted by senior citizens. And you know, it's really cool because you're actually buying some artwork as well as the treats.
Wow.
So we're gearing back up because we put the company or the treats on a little, we went on a little hiatus, at least I did, so that we spent a lot more time with the studio and trying to run the yoga studio.
Well, it definitely shows that you put a lot of time into the studio. It has really transformed the community south of Atlanta, particularly in the College Park area. Tell us a little bit about some of
Sure.
the there.
Paper Plane Yoga Studio is not only a yoga studio, but it's also art gallery. And it's also a hub where people can come together for healing. So you have yoga, you have meditation, we have Reiki, we have healing, there's readings being done there. But most important, the yoga studio, because College Park is a yoga desert, it did not have a yoga studio there. So the focus was really going into the area knowing that there was no yoga there and bringing yoga to that area, as well as opening it up to people who are living in the surrounding area as well. So we have people as far as Forest Park, we have people from Riverdale, Fayetteville, as well as the people that live in the College Park and the Tri-City area. So, in Atlanta. So it's open to everyone. The practice is really, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is really working with the beginners. Because there's so many people that feel yoga isn't for them.
Very intimidating.
They're waiting for weight loss to happen. They're waiting for, and it's funny because a lot of the things that I hear is, well, I was going to try yoga, but I have to lose weight. Well, knowing yoga can help with that journey.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm waiting to do yoga because I'm not flexible. Well, that's the reason why you do yoga. And then the other things are just about time.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't come across people that it's about finance, because our prices are fairly reasonable with respect to yoga, and we don't. There's so many different things that we have going on as far as deals and things of that nature that people can afford to go.
Yeah.
So it's really about being in a place where no yoga exists, and bringing the studio there with all of the other things that go along with it. So it's a whole way of really healing people mentally, physically, and spiritually.
It's very transformative, and I can definitely relate to your experience there in College Park and reaching out in the area. We talked a little bit that when I first started teaching here, same thing. There wasn't a lot of yoga in the area, particularly in our community as African American people who were kind of intimidated by it. They thought yoga wasn't for them, and that was why I was so drawn to you and your mission in terms of really bringing yoga to everybody and making it accessible,
right.
Relieving that issue of intimidation and lack of feeling like you don't belong.
Right, absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. And we at Paper Plane Yoga are really, really keen on making sure that people feel that they belong, and that whole feeling of community.
Yeah.
We make sure that everyone introduces themselves, that it's not standoffish. You just don't roll out your mat and start to practice yoga. It's about community. It's about joining people together. And it actually pays off, because a number of our people who practice with us see that they're not being judged on whether they're flexible or not flexible, or the shape of their body, or whatever the case may be. So they can feel practiced and safe to practice yoga without all of the other feelings of anxiety and not feeling that they belong, and so on and so forth.
Definitely, and you talk about them, feeling safe in that space, and that is a theme that you've created in Paper Plane, and that has definitely resonated with where I feel like our work has definitely connected in terms of creating a safe space, not only for yoga, but just for healing in general. And just to get into that, I know recently we started up a project together with a few other people with safe spaces, and it's something that you really opened up the doors of the studio to the community, to partners in the community, to helping with creating that sense of safety for people from all walks of life to have a place to come and heal, and pursue their healing in a very holistic way. So talk to us a little bit about what
Sure. I mean, safe space is really created, and it's organic in that the people who are involved really are the ones that are going to drive it. I don't want to be the one that really drives what the subject matter is going to be. So safe space is really a place, as you described, for people of all walks of life. We started with the female group first, an all-women's group that came together. There was no leaders in the group, although we do have people in the group that help guide the group, to help organize it, and so on and so forth. But the group is mainly for people to get together to form dialogue and to feel safe about discussing whatever topic that may be on their minds. And so it's not just political, it's not apolitical, it's not just one thing. So it's really an opportunity for people to come together as a community and share experiences, life experiences, so that we can all heal. Talking to people is a method of healing, especially if you're allowed to express yourself. And so the group will continue. We want to have this as a monthly venue where people from, like I said, women, and we'll have a men's group, a men safe place group, because when I was growing up, a lot of these things would happen in a barber shop, in a hair salon. Sometimes it would happen in small groups. Sometimes people will have tea parties, coffee, whatever the case may be, and people would talk. Nowadays, with all of the social media, we've become less social.
Exactly.
And we have a lot of narcissists, people that want to see them. And that's, hey, listen, if that's your thing, no judgment. But what we're trying to do is create a space where people can come together and share experiences, because that's how, as a people, that's how we're going to grow. That's how any people grow. Learning, because knowledge is power. And so the more we know about each other, the more we are willing to let down the guards and really appreciate other people's differences and similarities, is the only way we're really going to cure.
Yeah, I think we each have a role to play in the healing of the other.
Exactly.
Not just our own, but in participating in each other's healing and the spaces that we create, not just the physical space, but also the spiritual space that we create for each other.
Very well said, absolutely. And that's what it's really all about. A lot of times the topics may be low-hanging fruit topics, but when people leave, they've had this experience where they actually were in a space, because when you come into the studio, it's very, if I could use the word, it's very spiritual. It's very soothing, because it's an art gallery too. So we ensure that the work has a message, and that the work really speaks to people, speaks to them physically, spiritually, and mentally. And so when you come there and you are there for a program like the program where we have safe spaces, it gives you an opportunity to relax, feel that you can share without being judged, most importantly, and also know that there's no repercussions for what you shared.
Exactly.
So many times we talk about what it is to have a relationship with people, and some of us view relationships in a way in which we think, and we use the word very loosely, love and this and that. A lot of times you can have a relationship, you're either going to learn from a person, grow from a person, even people that you don't care for. But the question for you is, what have you learned from that experience? And hopefully bringing people together in these safe spaces, whether it's male group, female group, whatever the group may be.
And you talked about seniors, especially those living alone and not having really people in their lives that they can talk to, or even having, I think one of the things that really motivates me in terms of bringing seniors into the fold is that they have so much to give.
Absolutely.
In terms of their knowledge, their experience, and a lot of times when they're isolated the way that they are, they don't have a means by which to offer, their guidance,
It's a lot of history with people who have lived it. And so when these groups come together, I try to make sure that we have people, all age groups, different social, economical backgrounds, so they come together, because this is where the dynamics happens. This is where the magic happens between these, everyone that participates in a group such as this. So there's a lot to learn from a person who lived decades versus someone that is young and may not have had these experiences, and vice versa. There are a lot of senior adults that learn from people who and try to understand how this world is right now and what it means to them.
It's a great exchange.
It is a great exchange.
And so definitely that is something that I'm so grateful that you have brought into the community. And I know when we first talked about the project that I was doing, the Mala and Mimosas, which was geared towards women and sisterhood, and the first meeting that you did was also something that was more in the realm of sisterhood and women being able to speak and share their stories and things like that. Now, you talked a little bit about men and their ability to have a safe space, and I feel like our society right now doesn't necessarily always create that space, or at least isn't very friendly in terms of that spiritual and emotional healing where men are concerned. And I just want to get into that a little bit. And
Sure.
you touched on it in terms of how it used to be, but like now, what is it that you hope that to bring to our young men, our older men, in terms of that space to heal.
It's very important that we have a venue like this, and hopefully from this venue, other people will start to create venues similar. It's very important that men, young men, regardless of the age group, have a voice, because we are losing our voice. We're losing our voice to so many things out here, so many different vices out here. We lose our voice to alcohol, we lose our voice to drugs, we lose our voice when we're locked up in prison, and we don't have a voice anymore. We lose our voice in society because literally a lot of black men are invisible. We're invisible. Either our women don't want us anymore, society doesn't want us, and it's a sad situation. So it's very important that we come together in a brotherhood and in a safe place where we can have a voice and talk a lot of these things out, and hopefully hold each other, not only hold each other accountable for what we do, but also learn from each other's experience and what not to do and what to do. You know, we have people from different walks of life in the groups, from lawyers to people who are yogis to people who are artists to people who, were just in school. And so all of just men coming together for something positive is a good thing anyway. You know, and having them come together and discussing topics that are important to their life and the growth is very important. And
in terms of when men can come together and have a space in which to heal, again, to talk about, to advise each other, younger men learning from older men, I think when there's brotherhood and when we have a parallel sisterhood, that allows us more space for connection and healing between, men and women, which I think in our community, the black community in particular, there's a lot of need for. There's a lot of need for healing, between black men and black women right now.
Absolutely, absolutely, without a doubt. But first, that's one of the reasons why we didn't bring the two groups together as one, because there's some things that we need to do first. There is a methodology in how to communicate, and some of us have to learn that. And we also, there's the ego and so many other things, so many other dynamics when you bring the two groups together. So for me, the first thing was to do is to separate the groups, to get some of the basic guidelines out of the way and saying, listen, how do you communicate? What are some of the things that, you maybe roadblocks with respect to the two groups coming together? And how do we address topics without the ego and without frustration and being angry? And listen, it's okay to be angry, but there's a way to do that and a way to decompress and that sort of thing that has to be done first. That work has to be done first. And also, men, when we get the men's group together, just like the women's group, you have to be able to trust the people in the group. So we want to first go forward with a number of sessions so that we can gain that trust. Because it can't be a safe place unless you have trust.
Exactly.
And so it's very important for us to establish the trust of the people who are in the group before we go out and try to embark on bringing any other or mixing a group together with another group. And so once that trust has been built, then we can move forward. And it's going to be so dynamic when the two groups get together. But it's dynamic with just the individual, with the groups getting together now. There's just so much to be done and so much to be said. So it's all good.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much just for all of that, for all that you do and all that you've shared today. And I almost forgot to talk about one more thing. Yet another arm of Mr. Malone here is your Atlanta Multi-Sports Magazine.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So the Atlantic Multi-Sports Magazine started out to be a triathlon magazine because that was when before the yoga studio and all of before Yoga Bites, my health and wellness journey was to get my life together. And I started with running, marathoning, and then gradually got into triathlon. And so, to be perfectly honest with you, I just got tired of not seeing people of color on magazines. I pick up a running magazine, I pick up a triathlon magazine, and there was really no one of color on the magazine. I'm the type of person, I don't complain very much about it. You say, well, why don't you do something about it? So I started my own magazine. And the magazine is really geared to great stories of people who, like myself and like other people, that have gone through transition. And so they may have been a smoker or a drinker, they may have been 200-300 pounds, and now they're running a marathon, and they're running the Great Wall of China marathon. So they went from being a couch potato to doing that. Myself, and I don't try to toot my own horn, but you know, not being a runner to going into running and becoming a runner, becoming a run coach, and then running New York Marathon, running Paris Marathon, running Marathon in Madrid. I look back and I'm like, wow, I would never think that I would do that. But it goes to show you the human spirit, and it goes to show that there's nothing we can't do.
It's real.
And so the magazine is really built off of stories where people can look at it and read it and say, wow, if this person did it, they had cancer, they lost a limb, you know, they were this and they were that, and now they're a triathlete. Now we had a gentleman in the great guy. Unfortunately, he lost his leg in a motorcycle accident. Was left for dead, and now he's an Ironman. He's a triathlete. You know, and I don't want to minimize his story. There's a lot in between that story, but fantastic guy. And all of the people we interviewed just had very, very intriguing stories. And then when you fast forward and look at their lives now, they've always been phenomenal people, but they just, now their stories have just exploded.
And it's so relatable from what I've seen of the magazine and the stories. I just love looking at it. It just puts a real picture of what life can be. You know, I went from someone who was at one point nearly 300 pounds myself to now being an athlete. And just that spirit of transformation that you do have in the magazine, and being able to bring that, in front of other people of color.
Right.
Because so much of our community has that sense of just losing hope, and this really brings that hope that you can do it too. If these regular everyday Joes who had the same struggles and more so than you had, of course you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you look at the magazine, you see Asian.
Exactly.
We have an Asian triathlete. I mean, so it's not just, this is people of color. I was one of the first magazines to have on the front cover a Muslim female, and so a triathlete. So we've done some things that your children, people of color, all people can look at and say, wow, this magazine really shows the diversity of where we are.
Yeah.
It's real life, because when you go out here, you just don't see one color. When you walk out your door, we live in a diverse society. And so the magazine is reflective of that. And so I'm very proud, not just because it's just, it's not just black, it is all different shades and backgrounds and political views that are in the magazine. So it's morphed. We're up to issue 8, which I've been working on. It hasn't been rolled out yet, but it's going to be coming out. And we're also splintering the magazine off to another magazine, which is going to be more yoga, fashion, art, and so on and so forth.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Anthony, for
you.
being a part,
Thank you.
of our little show today. You guys, check him out, Anthony Malone. Can I list it off? Can I list off Paper Plane Yoga in College Park, right there on Harvard Avenue? Great place, great space, wonderful energy. Yoga Bites for the great desserts, for the food, and also Atlanta Multisports Magazine. Check it out. A new issue is coming soon, so get caught up, look it up online, and look him up, Anthony Malone. So great to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All
Love
right.
you guys.
Bye-bye.